Hello, and welcome to the series Kai Women Around the World, a show where we interview our Kai community to see how they organize their lives. Our Kai microphone traveled all over the world to get all the ins and outs about their daily routines. Are you traveling with us?
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of the Kai Women Around the World podcast. For this series, we packed the Kai mic and sent it to different corners of the world to ask women about the ins and outs of their daily routines.
For this episode, the mic traveled to Groningen in the Netherlands to talk to Ingrid Aarsman. Ingrid is transformation manager. She helps people that got stuck in their professional careers. Next to that, she's the co-author of her very own book. When she's not busy helping people, you can find her working in the garden or browsing interior inspiration. Organization plays an important role to her. For her, organization is all about finding the right place for everything. Because when something or someone is not on the right place, they tend to get out of balance. Welcome Ingrid. We are very excited to hear all about what you have to say about organization.
Thank you for your invitation.
So Ingrid, to start things off, are there some other things you would like to share about yourself?
Yes, please. I'm 52 years old. I say very confident. And I live with my husband, Edward, and our Bernese mountain dog, Mara, in the north of the Netherlands. In a manor house. We totally renovated in the past 17 years. And since Helga and Ina founded Kai, I think it's very nice to share with you that this manor house was founded by a woman too, in 1721. That's very unfamiliar, I think.
Okay, thank you so much, Ingrid, for sharing that. Can you also tell us a bit more about your career and what you do in your day-to-day life? Because you mentioned that you're a transformation manager, but what do you do exactly?
Yeah, sometimes I work in companies for a couple of months or a year, and that are companies that are full in changes and people can't start moving. They do not understand what new things they have to do, and they feel resistance to what they have to do. And it's my job to get them in motion. And I work for financial institutions, I work for care institutions, and all kinds of other retail organizations. And then I work on a location, mostly 200 or 215 kilometers from where I live. And in other days, I work over here in my room with a view when I look outside to nature and all kinds of beautiful trees. So I work at different locations. When I do not work as a transformation officer, I work as a certified quaner, and then I guide people one-on-one. So there are people who are longing for work that fulfills them, or are also stuck in work. And then I mostly work on another location in the middle of the Netherlands. So I travel a lot, and that's why I need good Kai bags. Yes.
Commuting, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We know that.
I will tell a lot about why organizing is so important to me, but in daily life, it's about that. I sometimes feel I have to move my complete office with 2 laptops and all kind of other things. And my walk-in closet, I put all my things in bags and I travel to other places. Sometimes I think I just move my complete office and my complete walk-in closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this podcast is about. We sent a Kai mic to hear all these stories of Kai women to learn from each other how we can organize our lives, and also to be inspired by each other, because every story is a new story, is something what you can learn about. So a day in your life, you explained already a bit, but a typical day in your life, how does it look like?
Yeah. When I stay home to work at home, I always start my day with a walk with my Bernese mountain dog, Mara. She has a lot of energy, and when we walk outside, she not typically a Bernese mountain dog. She walks very, very fast. I can't match her up, and that's how I start the day. I need space, and being outside is very important to me. Whether it rains or the sun is shining, that's my start of the day. And after that, and after my breakfast, I start working here in my room with a view, my office. Start connecting to people, starting writing on the book, starting. I'm a founder also of a new initiative. It's up to you. It's up to us. That's the correct name for. How do you call that? Supervisors in the supervisory board who are very passionate about the world and who want to accelerate the sustainable development. So that's the newest activity I share with my colleague Jacobi Mensinga from the Netherlands.
Okay, and when you're going out with your dog, this is very interesting. At which time is it then? Is it very, very early in the morning then that you do this?
Yes, I start very early in the morning. Sometimes at 6 o'clock,
Ooh.
sometimes at 7 o'clock. But I go to bed very early. So I start early and I stop early.
Yeah.
But most of the times I work in the evening. And most of the times I start very early, and in between I always think I take some spare time, I go for a long walk or I do something in the garden, and most of the times that doesn't work out because
no.
there are so many plans on my to-do list. Yeah.
So you're living in the north of the Netherlands. I can imagine that it is effectively different as, for example, in Amsterdam or so.
It is.
But when you compare yourself to people who are living in your neighborhood, is your life then the same or is it different? And is it also really, really different from people who are living in the city?
Yes, it's completely different. Starting with the way we live. We live in the country. We have a lot of garden and a big house. So my husband and I, we don't have any kids, have a lot of space to use. But it's really different regarding going to work, because whether I work at home or I work in the center of the Netherlands, it's very different from going to your work on your bicycle or a 5-kilometer trip with your car. To me, it's or at home or 250 kilometers travel. And that's different. And I mostly stay away for a couple of days. And most people over here come back home in the evening, and they share their evening with their family, their kids or their spouses.
You are the travel person in your...
Yes, I am. Yeah, for many years now, many years. Yeah.
And do you feel this as a stressful period to travel, and then the opposite, non-stressful to work at home?
It's not that clear, because when I work at home too long, too many days, I feel restless. I want to meet people. I want to see different things from the world. To me, it's very important to have different activities. So it gives me a lot of comfort to share all these different things. And then it comes to having good bags and good luggage and good equipment. It gives me stress when I always have to think about what shall I take with me. So I organized it in a way that I always know I need this, 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 and this, and it has fixed places in my bag.
Yeah.
And for some things, I have 2 or 3 the same things. So one can stay at home and one is in my travel bag.
Oh yeah. As such, your travel bag contains everything you need.
And you can never forget anything, right?
Yeah.
That way?
Yeah. Forgetting is the worst that you can have.
That's true. It's not nice when you arrive somewhere and you realize you forgot an important thing. That's entirely true. Now, Ingrid, so
you probably know the stress when you lost your wow, how it's called that. When you want to you have your cell phone and your cell phone, the battery is down.
And you need your cell phone charger, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and you realize, oh, it's at home. Yeah.
It's quite important because, I mean, right now we always want to be connected, right? Especially when we travel. I mean, if your phone just decides to die, then, I mean, at least for me, I'm not sure if we can speak for the both of us, but then I really feel lost from that.
You for sure, but me too, in fact. I have 2 chargers for that reason too.
We're just so used to it, and it has so many things that it can do. I mean, for example, just finding the way in the city, you know, I couldn't miss it. But well, so Ingrid, you do a lot of different things. You have a lot of different projects. But how do you balance your work and your family life on one hand, but how do you also like find time for yourself? And what is your biggest hurdle when it comes to finding that balance for yourself?
Well, except from the hurdle, I've got one thing I live from, and that is living from who I naturally are. My intention of being. Every person contributes something uniquely to themselves and to the world, and to me that is expression. I deeply want that people express themselves and things express themselves, that they find justice. And everything based on what I do for work and how I am in private is about expression and taking the right place so that things and people express themselves fully.
Is there a tip you
very important
give to us, Ingrid? Because you're talking, Ingrid, about this unique thing about yourself and to bring that up inside people. So to be able to fully express themselves, is there a tip you could give to the community to basically find that unique thing?
Yeah. Oh, I can give a tip, an advice. Your intention of being, that's who you uniquely are, is found by guidance. And that's me as a certified quaner. I developed myself to find that for other people. But you can find pieces of that yourself by knowing what frustrates you or what gives you annoyance. Because when you feel that emotion, you know there is something that you are longing for. When someone doesn't speak up that clearly, I would experience annoyance or frustration because I want that person to express himself.
Okay, thank you, Ingrid, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, Ingrid, are you happy with the balance you found for yourself between traveling, between being at home, the time you can allocate to your family, and work?
Yes, I am, and because of the fundament of it, by doing all the things that suit me, I feel a lot of energy and I can choose what suits me and what suits me not. So I confidently choose what I want to do and what I don't want to do, because it's not part of who I am. I don't go to parties that in which there are a lot of people, because I'm much more confident and it suits me best when I'm a one-on-one or one or two. I need space. So I don't share relationships in narrow spaces. I need different things to do, as you heard from all my activities. So when I do things a long time, the same things a long time, I'm getting very bored, and that my battery will get down very early when I do things that are not that don't suit me. So I don't see it as a balance. I see it as doing what suits me well.
You are a very strong person by really being able to define for yourself, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, and you just live
By
that role by
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think more people should do that, even myself perhaps.
But I think it's not easy to do that.
No, because I think a lot of people are living with a lot of frustrations. That's what I lived.
A lot.
I see it a lot.
And I'm sure a lot of people don't recognize the frustration anymore, because they're so almost comfort with the frustration. They don't know why that the frustration is there and why the frustration is there. And when they start looking at what frustrates them, they can learn what suits them and what suits them not.
And do you think this is something general worldwide, or is this something? Of course, you have more experiences with the Netherlands. Is it something that you really live in your country, and that this is a topic where people are discussing about?
A lot of people are discussing about that they need to do things that are more fulfilling. A lot of people, when you start talking about them about this topic, they start telling me, "Yeah, I'm earning a lot of money, and it feels so comfortable." And the but is always, my battery is down. I got stuck, but I don't have the nerve to stop doing this work. Always, not always, but most of the time when I start this topic, there are so many people that are stuck or are getting stuck in work. And my heart says, please find your intention of being and do what suits you well. That is good for you, but also good for your colleagues, for your family, for your kids, knowing that a dad or a mother does something that suits them.
Yeah, but you know, stopping is often more difficult than choosing something new, huh?
I think it's also scary to jump, and to take that decision from one day to the next to just go do something different, especially if you're comfortable in that situation.
Yeah, Maxine, that's just what I did. More than 20 years ago, I got stuck. I worked at the financial services, and I had a bore out. That's what I call it from hindsight. And I didn't know what to do. Coaching was not a thing I knew at that moment. So I just said, I stopped. And I had no other work. I had no income. But this is what I had to do, because I was so frustrated about my work. And many years ago, when I met Helma Liebewert, who is the founder of the Intention of Being and the guiding methodology Quaning, I found out that every person has to do something uniquely, and she found out my intention of being, and from that moment on, I'm really convinced that someone who finds his intention of being and lives from it purely is so inner confident that there is no need for quitting and doing something else. You can get a flow in what you have to do. So the scary part about stop doing what frustrates you isn't that big as it was when in my time.
Okay. Now, in fact, we are talking about quality of life. Huh? For the Netherlands, then, what do you recommend, or what do you think that Dutch people could do to improve the quality of life of their lives in their circumstances in the Netherlands?
Yeah. It's no surprise that I say, find your intention of being, find that what makes your heart tick, and live from that. And it's much more easier than you think. There is no scary part.
And do you have
and when
certain tools? Are there tools for?
Yeah, one tool is, I just have to say it, read the book we wrote about it. So you find out what the fundament of it is. And we give you 2 questions. And the 2 questions are, when you feel frustrated or irritated, find out what specific moment, what you did see, hear, or think just before you experienced the frustration and irritation. Because that particular part gives a lot of information about what you are longing for. And the second thing is, when you find out what specific moment that was, you can find out what that longing is. And that's a little part of who you really are, what your intention of being is. So those are little jigsaw puzzles that give you a little information about if the place you are working from right now suits you or suits you not.
Okay, something totally different now. You know the story between the Belgians and the Dutch people, where the Belgians think that the Dutch are a bit loud with the advantages and disadvantages, because they are, yes, the Dutch are great. They do so many great things that off for Belgians we are too down to modest, which comes that we don't reach as much as the people from the Netherlands, so the Dutch people do. Do you see this in the same way, or is this a misconception, or are there other misconceptions about the Dutch people that you see?
A misconception. Well, I know a cliche, but a misconception, I don't know. We are very direct. That's
true.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Yeah, and maybe it frustrates the people from Belgium, but there may be a longing to stand out of the crowd too. I don't know. But Dutch people being direct, that's clear. Maybe I can give a cliche. Is that okay too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's about finances. That people who are having dinner together, they ask each other, "Can you give me your the price of the dinner? Then we can share it." And I can't imagine that Belgian people would ask this to their the ones they share their dinner with.
No, we wouldn't do that.
No.
or at least a bit more discreetly.
Yes.
No, we do that direct, and I do not agree with it. It's much more fun when you offer it to each other. But most of the time, we ask each other, shall we share the dinner?
Yes.
Well, that's a great insight.
Yes.
It is. In Holland, you have the ABN AMRO bank, and they have tikkies. And tikkies are the things. Can you share your? Can you give me a tikkie? So that's the question. The question is about: can you send me the amount of money I have to pay you for this dinner?
Yeah, they are far more economical, the Dutch. They are
are.
not so overspending as the Belgians do, or certainly not as the Belgian government.
No.
But
No.
it's true, and it's just that you must know it and that you must try to understand each other. Personally, I learned to live with this directness of the Dutch people, and in fact, it's more practical because at least you know immediately where they stand for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the positive part of it. But
Yeah.
we have some friends in Belgium. We met in Iran during a holiday, and he has worked in in Antwerp. Do you call it in English?
Yeah, it's
Antwerp,
Antwerp,
yes.
correct.
Yeah, and he is very direct. So we get along very well. But his spouse isn't, so she has to adapt a little bit.
Well, luckily we aren't all the same, right? I mean, that would also be boring.
Yeah.
Now,
Wise
Ingrid,
words.
to finish, if there is one advice, I mean, I know it's hard to give one advice, but if you could give your best advice to busy women around the world when it comes to organizing life, then what would you advise them?
Yeah, except from living your intention of being, my advice is to give things in your surroundings a fixed place. So in my bags, there are fixed places for all the things I want to carry. Helga and Ine design bags that have a lot of different places. That helps. But in these different places, put your fixed things. And I've got a lot of space in cupboards in our home, and things have fixed places too. And once a year, at least, I organize all these cupboards and throw away what hasn't have value anymore. And I'm very, very certain about that. So I can start again, start anew with things that are organized.
Not to have too many things at home. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a
And
good
I
plan,
do
in
that.
fact.
Yeah.
I think
And
you
I
can
do
also
that
save a lot of
since I
time
was 5
with
or
it.
6, every year.
Hey, you know, when you don't do it and you move after 10 years, you know.
You know what is in there in that house.
Yeah.
My God, I moved a year ago. I can tell you it was horrible.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah. My mother will move to a nursery home the day after tomorrow. And I moved a lot of her things to our house, and I'm organizing it right away. But I don't. I'm not similar to my mother. There are so many things, so many old things that have lost value to her, but were still in her home.
Yeah.
It's almost ridiculous.
Well, sometimes
Yeah.
you gotta say goodbye to things as
Yeah.
well, to keep space for other things, you know. So I think that's very important.
Headspace too.
Yeah.
Space in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
space in
Yeah.
mind. Absolutely.
Okay, Ingrid, thank you very much for everything that you shared with us today. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
I did.
Well, let's talk soon, okay? Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.